Madam Cecilia Dapaah resigned as Sanitation Minister in July 2023 after rather interesting criminal proceedings in which she and her husband are complainants. They accuse their house helps and their friends of stealing valuables and cash, amounts of $1 million, 300,000 euros, and millions of cedis from their home between July and October 2022. The OSP searched her home, discovered and seized about 600,000 United States dollars and about 300 million cedis extra, froze her accounts. But within 7 months of investigations, multiple suits, court orders, and frustrations, the OSP announced it couldn't trace corruption, but money laundering. In January, it handed the case to EOCO, which has that mandate. EOCO sought advice early in the day, and the AG has just declared that there is no basis for money laundering investigations. End of the case. Anti-graft CSOs, including the GII, CDD Ghana, have harsh words for the Attorney General, EOCO, and President Akufo-Addo. The EC is showing proof that experts and independent consultants advise that Ghana's biometric voting management systems, BVRs, BVDs, in use before 2020 had come to end of life. They were obsolete, and that replacing them was cheaper than refurbishing them, as claimed by Immani. The think tank has suspicions and maintains there are serious questions. The EC is here. Immani is here this morning. The NPP appears to have struggled to win the Ejisu By-Election on Tuesday. Allegations are rife. There is ocular proof that it bought votes in its own 100% stronghold, as one of its MPs was caught on camera corrupting election officers. The party's candidate won with 27,000 votes, in excess of that, while its agreed former MP got 21,000 votes as an independent candidate, maybe an Alan Chairmantin candidate. Is the development a sign the NPP will struggle in December's election? And will the MP be prosecuted despite denying any intention to corrupt their officers? CSOs, including Codeo, demand prosecution. I'm Samson, Lardy, Anyenini, and you know this is your most authoritative news analysis platform. We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And here is Samson's take. Journalists block the pretentious idiots. I've taken a break from a PhD in law after 2 years of demanding studies. People I have a deal of respect for, including a couple of judges, have asked me to consider teaching law, which I do occasionally as guest lecturer, home and abroad. But I feel it's better doing so after a PhD research experience, being fortified. A PhD must signify scholarship and wisdom that places a patriotic restraint on the holder to a professional and ethical conduct. It is embarrassing how a growing number of PhDs reduce the esteem one ought to have for those who have endured the discipline to earn it. Lawmaker Dr. Kingsley Nyako is bold to give the lame and pathetic excuses and justifications you have heard, because nothing will happen to him. In fact, he lies on paper that he gave out the money for lunch because lunch had not been provided to the officials. Lunch at 10 a.m., be wise. He had claimed that what was in that envelope was a document. If the police is not serious about prosecuting the plain criminal conduct, they will charge him under the Representation of the People Law, PNDC Law 284, prohibiting acts of undue influence, bribery, and corruption in elections. By that law's ridiculous Section 42, they require the Attorney General's express permission to prosecute such offenses. In Ghana, AGs hardly or do not prosecute members of their political party. The chances are good if they resort to similar or even more direct provisions in the Criminal and Other Offences Act as amended in 2020, or if the OSP, which does not require AG's consent, takes up this case on its corruption mandate. Dear friends, we cannot build a decent society if there are no consequences for wrongdoing for a class of people. Imagine the one who did this was not an MP. He would have been in custody. These days, some PhDs open their mouths on radio and TV, and you are left feeling embarrassed for them. They, who should lead a debate of ideas and intellectual analysis, are often heard trading insults and talking such bizarre, illogic propaganda that leaves people asking how and where such minds got a PhD. Many have suffered the pretentious idiocy of the Dr. Nyakos and Dr. Apiahenes of this world. The president spurned good advice to revoke Peter Apiahenes' appointment. He will also not resign despite calls by well-meaning citizens and CSOs. This is not good, because the EC, like Caesar's wife, must be above suspicion. But the election procedures are such that one may say it will take an idiot of a criminal to attempt to manipulate election results. In Ghana, presidential and parliamentary election results have been a product of open, transparent candidate, party, voter, observer, police process from start to finish. This is the reason the Supreme Court in 2013 soundly rejected the NPP's prayer to annul some results because presiding officers failed to do their constitutional duty of appending their signatures to the pink sheets. This brought about the law punishing these officers with fines and jail terms rather than visit their sins on innocent voters. In part 2, next week, I invite the media to be vigilant and credible ahead of the 2024 elections and to avoid becoming vehicles by the opposition, NDC especially, demonizing the EC without just cause. Congratulations, the UN says on World Press Freedom Day, for daring to challenge power, risking your lives to document atrocities, corruption, and crime, and to stand up against oppression. You, journalists, serve as the ultimate allies in human rights. And that is my take. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And the matter we canvass for you first has to do with former Minister Cecilia Dapaah's $1 million and many other millions matter, which it appears, has been concluded. It appears has been concluded without further probing. But is that the case from what people see from the Attorney General's advice to EOCO? Joining me for that discussion, the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Godfred Yeboah-Dame. Abraham Amalba is former Director of Legal Affairs, NDC, and he's currently the Director of Conflict Resolution, National Democratic Congress. Dr. Theo Champong is economist and political risk analyst. Obviously, been working also with the CDD, who have issued a statement this morning, taking the Attorney General on and the government on for failing to do what was naturally expected of them. So, let's begin with the Attorney General, and I'm sure, Honorable Minister, that you would have seen the statement issued by the CDD. So, if you don't mind, we can start from there. And the CDD says, among others, that the idea that unexplained wealth can give rise to a reasonable suspicion or even a presumption of illegality of the source of such wealth is a principle embraced by our Constitution, notably Article 286, Clause 4 of the Constitution. In the chapter on the Code of Conduct for Public Officers, it makes it clear, in the context of the asset declaration regime, that assets of a declarant that are, quote, not reasonably attributable to income, gifts, loan, inheritance, or any other reasonable source shall be deemed to have been acquired in contravention of this Constitution. It is the same principle or presumption that justifies at least a credible investigation into this matter. It is instructive that Mrs. Dapaah refused to complete a statement of income and property from 4 during the OSP investigation. So far, no other agency is known to have asked her to have asked to see Mrs. Dapaah's asset declaration record or appears interested in getting to the bottom of this matter in order to bring it to a satisfactory closure. The action of EOCO in requesting directions from the Attorney General without first acting on the referral from the OSP to initiate its own investigation of the matter seems oddly contrived. Please note that. Seems oddly contrived. You and the EOCO have come together. You have contrived to let Madam Cecilia Dapaah off, having been provided with a docket containing various exhibits, statements by 20 or so individuals, as well as the bare fact of the quantum of the monies found in the properties associated with Mrs. Dapaah and her spouse. One would have expected EOCO to proceed with its own investigations instead of seeking the AG's legal advice on prosecution at that early pre-investigative stage. I read this last paragraph. CDD Ghana notes with great disappointment that the abrupt or inconclusive manner in which this matter has been ended fits a pattern, note that, it fits a pattern in terms of the Nana Akufo-Addo administration's general attitude and response to scandals and allegations or reported incidents of criminal conduct, corruption, or other financial malfeasance involving persons closely associated with the government or ruling party. Cases and scandals that have been treated in similar inclusive fashion include various galamsey scandals and a host of pseudo-PPP procurement deals, including the recent SML case. The government has not demonstrated a good faith commitment to working with the responsible agencies to bring any of these cases or scandals to a credible and satisfactory resolution. It appears the government is more interested in exonerating the targets or suspects in these cases than in working with the state's investigative and prosecutorial agencies to resolve these matters in the public interest. How do you answer to these? Hello, Godfrey Dami.
Yes.
Yes, so my question to you is, how do you answer to these? Because they've just sort of summarized the concerns of CSOs and large sections of the public.
Right. Good morning, Samson. May I wish your listeners a good morning for a good weekend as well. And I think I must first and foremost comment that I'm utterly amazed at this statement issued by the CDD. I mean, I have very good friends there. Every now and then they even send messages to me behind the scenes to maybe give me a pat on the back on some of the things that I do. Of course, when it comes to those things, they did not come out publicly with their praises. But that's been over the weekend. It's fine. And then clearly, we see that this statement did not have regard any of the matters facts on record. The major allegations by CDD are number one, that EOCO did not conduct an inquiry investigation on this one. Even indeed, CDD itself had carefully read the letter that was written by my office and the letter that telling EOCO. CDD would have found that clearly we said on the first that EOCO had prepared a report on their review on the document. So the letter that Teddy wrote at paragraph 3 of the letter, it said, I think, 9. So it says, you stated your letter that upon a review of the document, the officer, the prosecutor, it is not clear which benefit offense to proceed as alleged case of mind on by your OS. You attach a copy of the report on your review of the OS docket to your letter referred to above. So this clearly shows that you conducted a review of the OS work. You conducted investigations into what we had done, and indeed presented a report to us for review. And I'm therefore surprised that CDD will issue a statement at dawn this morning and mislead the entire public that EOCO did not do any work at all. And I think that the integrity of the work done by state institutions must be recognized and upheld. If indeed they did the proper thing, they must be commended. And EOCO itself, this is not the first time they're investigating money laundering. They have been investigating money laundering in many matters related to crimes that they are investigating. And so they know what money laundering is. And so when EOCO itself found that no basis for convicting money laundering, they could have still U.S. return the docket and state that is not for indicated by you, by law. But the state appropriate, which is to seek counsel of the Attorney General regarding further directions to take in the matter. And they duly attach a copy of their report on investigations. So to that point must be clarified. And clearly, CDD's statement there is inaccurate and grossly misleading. Secondly, CDD fought the referral by EOCO to my office for advice. And I'm utterly amazed by this. Because indeed, it is actually within the law governing EOCO's mandate, as well as their practice over the years. Since it was established, in fact, even before EOCO was established, the predecessor to EOCO, the special SFO, the serious fraud office at that time. Clearly, I mean, it is customary of all investigative bodies set up under law to seek the advice of the Attorney General on any criminal investigations they are conducting. It's not only EOCO which does that. The BNI sometimes seeks our counsel. The Director General of CID regularly seeks advice from us. So I'm surprised that this well-known convention established over maybe even a century since the office of Attorney General became public, that is now being sought to be questioned by the CDD. I did not find any basis at all for the CDD's letter. The third point is that CDD actually shows clearly that they did not even read what the special prosecutor had put out in the public. CDD also shows clearly that they did not even read what the special prosecutor had written to EOCO following his press release. Now, the letter written by the special prosecutor to EOCO puts the focus of money laundering investigations into proper perspective. It is worthy to state that a careful look at the special prosecutor's work, the conclusions raised by the special prosecutor in both his press release as well as the letter to EOCO will show that the premises within which the special prosecutor actually invited EOCO to investigate money laundering was very limited. It was actually limited to alleged transfers of funds from the United States of America. And I refer you to the second paragraph of the OSP's letter. I'll read it for the benefit of the public. The OSP's letter is a brief one. It says, in July 2024, that's the very first paragraph, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, OSP, commenced investigations in respect of suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses regarding large cash sums involving Ms. Cecilia Dapaah, Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources. The second paragraph says, in October 2023, the investigations became transboundary with the involvement of the Federal Bureau of Investigations, FBI of the United States of America, in respect of part of the cash sums that were alleged to have been transported into the jurisdiction from the United States of America. After 7 months of extensive investigations and 4 months of collaborative investigations, it seems to the OSP that the case is largely in the province of suspected money laundering and structuring. So clearly, the OSP indicates that it is specifically in relation to the sums that were alleged to have been transported into Ghana from the United States of America that should be the subject matter or the focus of money laundering investigations. The money laundering investigations clearly is linked to those transfers. And then earlier on, if we notice, the special prosecutor himself had released a press statement to the public, specifically saying that, yes, they conducted investigations into the financial affairs and assets of former Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, Dapaah. Then it concluded very significantly in paragraph 2 of the press release that after nearly 7 months of extensive investigation by the OSP and a parallel inquiry by the FBI, no direct and immediate evidence of corruption has been found in the seized funds and frozen bank accounts linked to Ms. Dapaah and her associates. And then they proceeded to say the investigation has identified strong indications of suspected money laundering and structuring. And then, of course, they acknowledged their inability to investigate money laundering by virtue of the law that they were operating within. But they concluded significantly, laying basis again for the investigation into money laundering. It's concluded a portion of the inquiry was entrusted to the FBI due to allegations suggesting involvement of transfer of funds from the United States. So I think that this clearly settles the issue that insofar as the funds located in Madame Cecilia Dapaah's house were concerned, insofar as even lodgements into her accounts locally were concerned, and insofar as the sums that were seized by the OSP were concerned. There was clearly no direct or immediate evidence of corruption, and that is not me stating this. This is the special prosecutor himself, clearing Madame Cecilia Dapaah. So the record must reflect the point that the OSP properly seized with the jurisdiction to investigate or seized with the mandate to investigate corruption and corruption-related offenses after conducting an elaborate inquiry, cleared Madame Cecilia Dapaah of corruption As the OSP. So why is the CED now trying to suggest that the Attorney General now has cleared anybody of corruption? EOCO never investigated for corruption. The Attorney General has never investigated for corruption. It is the OSP itself which conducted 7 months of extensive investigations into it and 4 months of what it describes as collaborative investigations with the FBI and came to that conclusion.
All right.
And I'm saying that, so the public must understand clearly that the OSP only gave a narrow remit to EOCO to investigate for money laundering in respect of the funds that were allegedly transferred into the country.
If I may ask, if I may ask a couple of questions for direct answers, as brief as you can.
Yes.
The CDD says this was too early in the day for EOCO to be coming to you for directions. Is that what you do in the normal course? Is that what EOCO does and other agencies that are under you do in the normal course when they are seized with a matter to investigate? That very early in the day, they bring it to you and say, show us a way? So,
first and foremost, it must be placed on record that there's no time frame within which an investigative authority can seek the counsel or advice of the Attorney General. Indeed, even the recent train accident, the importation of the trains into the country, I mean, during the test exercise conducted on the trains, and the accident that occurred. Just within a week after the man had been sent to court, CID brought the docket to the Attorney General for advice. so really, there's no time for that.
Number two.
EOCO did not. Hold on. EOCO did not refer to as a lady upon receipt of the docket from the US. EOCO actually conducted its review and prepared a full report on it.
Why a review? Why a review instead of investigations? Because this is the area. This is the area the OSP had not done and required the EOCO to investigate. So why a review?
Okay, so we'll come to why. Firstly, the investigation by EOCO will include an assessment of the docket. So I understand the referral by OSP itself to essentially mean a complaint of money laundering. Well, indeed, EOCO had never been seized with the matter. EOCO had never conducted an investigation into the matter at all. The only time EOCO came into the matter was when the OSP invited the EOCO to investigate this issue. So that essentially would suggest, loosely called, that it is a complaint by the OSP. Now, the OSP presented documents in support of that a complaint or referral. EOCO definitely owed a duty to scrutinize the entire docket, which they did. They examined everything on the docket, including statements that had been taken by Madam Cece Dapaah and her husband and other people, including even some journalists. They also investigated bank statements on all the accounts owned not only by Madam Cece Dapaah, but other persons associated with her, including her husband and all. They also investigated all contracts. In fact, it is very important to note that the OSP itself, in exercise of its mandate, which related not only to the bare offense of corruption, but which includes procurement breaches, proceeded to investigate all contracts that had been signed by Madam Cece Dapaah in her capacity as Minister for Sanitation.
So, do I hear you?
There was not a single breach of procurement procedures. There was not a single breach of.
Do I hear you say?
Any criminal violation?
Do I hear you say? Your advice was on the back of EOCO's investigations and not what OSP had done? Everything,
because EOCO did not just present their report to us for advice. EOCO presented the entire docket on the Cecilia Dapaah matter, which had been delivered by the OSP to EOCO. And EOCO presented those documents together with their review report to the Attorney General to advise on the way forward.
Right. So the point is that the substantive point you are making is that EOCO did its job in investigating money laundering and found nothing.
Yes, and found no basis for proceeding. And that is why the EOCO stated in their letter to us that upon a review of the docket and upon preparation of their report, they find no basis to posit an allegation of money laundering. And because of the sensitive nature of the matter, we go
back to upon a review of the docket rather than upon their investigations.
So that investigation again included an inquiry of the special prosecutor. And if you look at the letter we wrote, we alluded to a letter written by EOCO on 1st February 2025. That was long before EOCO presented the docket to us, asking the special prosecutor to present to EOCO its findings on money laundering. Because the special prosecutor stated clearly that the money laundering allegations were in respect of transfers from other jurisdictions into the jurisdiction of Ghana. And that is pursuant to the collaborative investigation that allegedly the office had carried out with the FBI. And clearly, so EOCO reasonably would be entitled to the findings of that exercise.
So if your advice,
EOCO requested for a copy of that report from the special prosecutor. To date, the special prosecutor has not finished.
So if your advice is based on the EOCO's investigations, why do you say that the OSP's referral was without basis for money laundering? Because OSP alluded to collaborative investigations with the FBI, based on which it came by transfers from other jurisdictions into Ghana. So the OSP in its investigations had noticed some transfers of money from the United States of America into Ghana, not from Ghana to US. And that clearly will require a proper statement of that record. So EOCO, in pursuance of that, wrote to the OSP asking for a copy of that report. EOCO did not receive any reply. To date, it has not received any reply. And that was way back on 1st February. And today, as I speak to you, it's 4th May, is it not? And that's 3 months. Let me read this portion of your advice under the hand of Evelyn D. Kilson, Chief State Attorney. Even though, as part of your mandate, you could commence investigations into the sources of the money found in the home of the suspect, we do not find this necessary. Please, do you hear what you said?
Yeah. And there's a reason why we say it's not find necessary. Because
that says the EOCO did no investigations.
No, I'm saying
because you actually say that was not necessary.
You don't take one. Samson. I think that it's so trite that it cannot take just one line out of a 3-page letter and conclude in that manner. Especially when the letter began with an acknowledgement of the work that had been done by EOCO, the report that was prepared on the matter by EOCO, and now examination of that report together with other documents on the docket. And I'm saying that line is actually, there's a reason. If you read the full, if we read the line in
the next part of that line,
it will state that
the next part of that line is that you had instructed the police service, who are already seized with other aspects of the case, to investigate the sources of the huge sums of money found in the home of the suspect, a fact the OSP is aware of.
Precisely, and that's the very first thing we do in my laundry.
So EOCO, you are saying that EOCO has come to an end in an investigation, finding there's no money laundering. Is it your expectation that the police will continue with on your instructions that they should investigate money laundering?
I'm saying that two things arise out of that sentence that you read. Number one is the point that, indeed, the CID of the Ghana Police Service had way back last year been directed by the Attorney General to investigate the sources of the funds and other matters connected therewith. And the OSP itself was in our way. If you recall, there were various applications filed by the OSP in the Cecilia Dapaah matter, and they attached a copy of the Attorney General's advice. So indeed, I would expect that the referral should actually have been to the CID and not to EOCO. The referral by the special prosecutor for investigation into money laundering should actually have been to the CID, since he was already aware that the investigation the source of the money. The second point that arises from that sentence is hold on. I think it's very important. Now, the OSP itself have been investigated those transfers from the United States of America. Clearly knew the sources of the money. So even the sources of the money, for me, are known to the OSP, and the public ought to demand from the OSP his indication as to the sources of those monies. Because indeed, the OSP has come up with the conclusion that the transfers to the United States of America, which he came by pursuant to those transboundary investigations with the FBI. Clearly, the transfers will indicate the sources. So he knew the sources. So I really find even the referral to EOCO unnecessary in the circumstances. Has anybody sought to find out from the special prosecutor what those transfers actually entailed, or who did those transfers and the volumes of those transfers?
A substantive,
I think the issues are quite simple.
A substantive point you make.
The public, if CIDD is actually concerned, they would actually ask those questions. And you look at CIDD, they don't even ask the question at all of the special prosecutor as to one, why they did not even reply to the EOCO's letter. Why they did not cooperate with EOCO. A substantive point you
made in your advice is that the OSP also may be getting things wrong, because for EOCO to be able to prosecute on money laundering, there ought to be a predicate offense.
Yes.
Question: when you asked the police to investigate money laundering, what was the predicate offense for which you were asking the police to investigate money laundering?
Number one, if you look at our letter to the police properly, I mean, and I think that it's very important to acknowledge the efforts of the Office of Attorney General. The state attorneys there are properly trained. State attorneys are people who are skilled in prosecuting money laundering and all that. They did not just jump to conclusion that somebody or a person is accused of money laundering. No, they don't do that. So they'll first find out from you the source of your money. So nowhere in the letter written by the Attorney General to CID would you find the word money laundering. No, but you first have to ascertain the sources of the money. Do you understand? And that is what the special prosecutor and the CID, with all respect, ought to have done. Indeed, CID is actually still engaged in the exercise. The first point that we made was for them to investigate the sources of the money and all questions that we raised in the letter related thereto. So it's not just the case. You see, the mere fact of discovery of money, either in a bank account or in a person's physical premises, does not suggest the commission of a crime. Is there any crime committed by the discovery of money in a person's home, Samson?
But when the person,
hold on.
May I answer the question you asked? When the person involved is a public officer,
right,
and the person's source of income is known and cannot amount to the stash of cash sums in excess of $1 million, almost 3 million Ghana cedis, almost another 600,000 US dollars. That is in addition to the money the person says has been stolen by their house help. So, and for a long period of time, the person is not known to conduct any business that should earn them money.
Right.
You should be interested. You should be interested in how they come by that amount of money.
Absolutely, I'm interested in that, and indeed, I'm one of the proponents for even the setting up of this equivalent of public officers law. I'm actually the one mooting the enactment of the public officers law. It's something that I've been pursuing and all. And the point is that we must recognize that the complaints relating to the loss of money was actually made by Madam Cece Dapaah herself.
That's right.
In her original complaint to the police, she indicated how she even came by the money in her house. She indicated straight away in her original complaint, at the time that I had not even heard about the matter, at the time that there was no public attention on the matter, when she walked quietly into the police station and made a complaint. Her original complaint indicated that the monies were monies belonging to her late brother that her mother had given to her to keep following the death. It is her original statement.
Right.
So even the person had indicated the source, nonetheless, the principal ought to investigate.
I need to get to my other guests, but I need you to answer this particular one. Imagine, let's take it that the EOCO, in fact, we take your word for it. We have no reason not to believe you. That the EOCO investigated money laundering and found nothing. If they investigated money laundering and found nothing, the EOCO is the same entity that has the mandate under Section 1.3 of the Anti-Money Laundering Act. Is that not so? That section says, once the suspect can't explain the source of the money, the offense is deemed to have been committed.
Again, you're getting totally wrong. That section is still linked with the commission of a predicate offense. It is not in a vacuum. That section still relates to the commission of an offense. So the basis for money laundering has actually been determined in a number of cases in Ghana. Remember the NCA trial, which led to the conviction of Mr. Bafuboni and a few others. Remember? There was a medical doctor who was acquitted of the offense of both stealing and money laundering. The medical doctor, who was actually a public officer, I think he was working with a Kulebu Teaching Hospital also, Dr. Hensel or something. Now, this medical doctor was a member of the NCA board and had possession of about 500,000 United States dollars that they had been transferred into his account and all that. The medical doctor could not offer any explanation at all as to the source of the money. The Office of the Attorney General charged him with stealing as well as money laundering. Because indeed, you cannot just charge money laundering in a vacuum. That is why it's very important that the OHP's exoneration of Madame Cecilia Dapaah is significant in this whole point. OHP have exonerated Madame Cecilia Dapaah of corruption and corruption-related offences, ought to have indicated the specific offence that he thought could be the basis for money laundering. So, after the prosecution's case had closed in the NCA matter, the judge found no basis for stealing the offence of money laundering.
Okay.
Justice Chibafo, and acquitted the medical doctor of stealing. Having acquitted the medical doctor of stealing, Justice Chibafo held the view, rightly, that he ought not even proceed to determine whether there was money laundering at all. Money laundering does not operate in a vacuum. And subsequently proceeded to then acquit the gentleman also of money laundering. So you cannot just proceed on the basis of money laundering in the absence of nothing. And that's been clearly decided.
This same EOCO,
even if you look at this
EOCO's law allows it to do a lifestyle audit of the individuals who are in public office who may have been found in these circumstances.
In their law, in the EOCO Act says they should conduct lifestyle audits of public officers. There's no provision at all like that. I mean, they can only do so as part of investigations. And I think if we look at all the provisions of the law as a whole, section 1, 2, 3, up to 5, as well as the interpretation section of the Anti-Money Laundering Act, clearly, there's no way a person can investigate a person and that person for money laundering without
okay. All right.
Predicate offense.
All right. So please.
So the discovery of the money that the person claims that it came from her brother and all that means that the person has committed money laundering. I think the fundamental question that ought to be asked: what were the specific findings of the OSC in relation to the transfers to the United States of America? And again, if you would note, it means that even the money laundering allegation that is being bandied about by people, we're not even in relation to the money found in Cecilia Dapaah's house. As per the OSC's own letter to EOCO, and as per the OSC's first statement,
all right. Thank you.
It was in relation to a transfer from outside
Thank
the
you very
country.
much, Godfrey Dami. Now, let me bring in my other guest. Abraham, the presidential candidate of the NDC has gone ahead to say that this matter will be reopened if he wins power, and that there will be an investigation into not only money laundering, but all of these issues surrounding Cecilia Dapaah. You've heard the Attorney General.
Samson, good morning to your viewers. And let me start by saying that the more I listen to the Attorney General, the more I come to the firm conclusion that this country is finished. The Attorney General's letter to EOCO, in my view, is despicable, obnoxious, and ridiculous, to say the least. Why am I saying this? Special prosecutor was seized with some facts, and the special prosecutor started some investigations. Along the line, it transferred the matter to EOCO. As we speak, EOCO has its own investigators. You know this. You have written a letter to EOCO stopping an investigation, and you are talking about predicated offense. How do you get an offense if investigations are not conducted?
He confirms this morning that EOCO did its investigation.
No, he said EOCO did a review of the files brought to it by special prosecutor.
And it did its investigations. He's confirmed that.
Are you saying that Cecilia Dapaah was interrogated by the EOCO? No. Are you saying that...
You don't know that for a fact. He's saying EOCO did investigations, also went into contracts and everything. And
but you just said that
there's no trace to those contracts as far as the monies are concerned.
There's a letter written by the agency saying they should stop the investigations. You read the letter going to the EOCO? That in their view, the investigations must be stopped.
It says investigations into money laundering are not necessary.
Yes. So clearly you can see, and I agree with the CDD report, a contrived conduct by the Attorney General, EOCO, to come to this conclusion. Look, Article 2864 is clear, and you've read it from the CDD report, that unexplained wealth can be a source of investigation. Why would the AG think that because the special prosecutor's report shows that they could not establish some offenses, corruption, but the EOCO, which is seized with money laundering, which could have done its own investigation and has investigators, were not also allowed to carry on with their own investigation and then come to the conclusion that this matter has ended. Look, the very moment that the special prosecutor transferred the matter to EOCO, I knew the matter had come to an end. And this is where we are today.
You are talking about the Constitution's injunction for lifestyle audit, so to speak. That if you have money, you are a public officer, you have money, and you have not declared it, or even if you have declared, it's not traceable to a loan, a gift, inheritance, or your earnings. That money would have been said to have been acquired in contravention of the Constitution. He's saying that your issue is about your inability to explain the source of that money. That EOCO's investigation shows that she has explained the source of that money. And in fact, when the $1 million and the rest matter went to the circuit court, it was explained that that money belonged to some sources.
You remember when the matter went to EOCO, she first said that it belongs to the late brother. It turned out that wasn't true. She said it's sources from her boutique, or is it a hairdressing, something. It turned out that not to be true. Even in those cases...
How do you say it turns out not to be
true? No, it was established by the EOCO, by a special prosecutor, that they found out that those allegations were not true. Indeed, it is an offense to even, as it were, lie to a public officer. That alone in itself is an offense in itself. Now, you notice that when the Attorney General indicated that because the special prosecutor failed or could not establish corruption, and for that matter, the case was transferred to EOCO, and EOCO also couldn't establish the crime that was committed so as to give rise to money laundering. For me, I felt that was too simplistic, to say the least. That because you could not identify a crime which gave birth to the proceed, that meant that EOCO had no jurisdiction had no right to continue.
Shouldn't you rather be asking if EOCO investigated the claim that, is it $800,000 of the $1 million was funeral donations or something? shouldn't you rather be asking EOCO, what investigations did you do that showed that, in fact, this money has been properly explained, that it is money that came from funeral donations?
But even the letter written to EOCO specified that some amounts could not be explained. Did they allow EOCO to investigate those special amounts? No investigation was done to establish whether those amounts were legally obtained. But you see, I see what is happening as a clear indication of cover up. Ever since this government came into power, and the CDD report has indicated that, you will find that people connected to this government, anytime they are in conflict with the law, you have the Attorney General, you have state institutions coming to protect them. We have the Galamsey matters by, what is his name?
Professor Frimpong Boateng.
Frimpong Boateng, and then also the chairman of the Ashanti region. All these matters are still with the police. What are they doing about it? But could the Attorney General get to the bottom of this matter? He couldn't. Because already the president had cleared the woman. Is it an appointee of the president? Oh, the president said that he was sure that her innocence will be established. At a point when no investigations were conducted.
He would have known the facts that you are getting to know that now that you didn't know.
So the president should prejudice the work of state institutions. What would happen if the president waited for the state institutions to finish their investigations, and then he will now say that I knew that this would have been the outcome?
Dr. Theo Champong, are you satisfied with what you have heard from the AG in explaining their advice, or you have questions for the Attorney General?
Good morning, Samson. In fact, it raises more questions for me than answers, listening to the AG's remarks. Because as you read the latter part of the letter written under the hand of Evelyn D. Kilson, and we must also put it on record that this letter is dated, I think, the 25th of April, 2024. So it's fairly new in that respect. And again, I think it's important to quote it. He says that, quote, even though as part of your mandate you could, it didn't say they did, commence investigations into the sources of the money found in the home of the suspects, we do not find this necessary since this office before the reference by the USP had instructed the police service, who are already seized with other aspects of the case, to investigate the sources of the huge sums of money found in the home of the suspects, and it goes on and on. So clearly, from this letter and all the premises that are made before that, it comes across to me that the EOCO has not done fully the investigations that are required, and it's more or less the AG's office trying to stem their hand and trying to tell them that, no, don't go into doing any of the necessary investigations that are there. And this is quite contrary to what the AG has just said on this platform, a few moments ago, because it says that they don't find it necessary. So in essence, don't go and do the investigation. And for me, again, the optics of it is not right, because my worry from all that is happening is that this case may become one of those cases that we see in Ghana. It's a foolish case, right? That it will go back and forth, and we may never see fully the light of day in terms of any substantive convictions or any of those actions that are meant to be taken. Because there's already a certain perception, and you see that in the CDD report, in other reports, that some of the alleged corruption or corrupt cases involving certain appointees of the administration are not being investigated properly, and people are being more or less, let go in that context. And I think this fits into that narrative or that public perception, that is out there. And I also get worried because, again, listening to the AG and other sort of government spokespersons on this, the impression is created that the OSP hasn't done or didn't do a thorough job in their investigations. So in the letter, they make reference to the FBI collaboration and the work that they're doing in trying to prove this particular offense or not. But again, we don't know for sure whether that FBI work has been concluded. And then they also mentioned the fact that the OSP itself did not provide all of the required documentation to EOCO in order to be able to further, do its work. But it all comes down substantively to the point of law. And I'm no lawyer, but what I read basically from the summary of the 3-pager document under the hand of the Chief State Attorney and others is that the crime of money laundering and structuring, more or less, they are struggling to prove that. And I'm just sitting here shaking my head. So even if we cannot prove that, for argument's sake, are there not other offenses within our statutes and codes that we can allow EOCO and other agencies to thoroughly investigate and therefore, bring the matter to its natural conclusion, rather than this attempt from this letter to try to, force or stymie the hand of EOCO into doing what it should be doing.
We understand from the OSP that when the EOCO wrote to return the docket back to them, the letter that accompanied the returning of the docket they had referred to the EOCO had said, among other things, that, quote, in the light of the above, that is the AG's advice, we are unable to commence investigations. They use the word commence investigations, end quote. So this is to challenge what the AG is saying, that EOCO had done its investigations. Yeah, we are trying to get the OSP to speak to us because they have concerns with what the Attorney General is saying and what EOCO has said. So what do you say in the light of this?
It's quite clear, Samson. It's quite clear on the surface of what you have read. And one does not even need to be a rocket scientist. You read the letter from the Chief State Attorney, and it is very clear that we don't find their investigation necessary because somebody else is doing this and doing that. And for me, again, it does not speak well. The optics don't look good. I
ask Abraham Amali, but maybe same question to you. Do you think that when the Office of Attorney General received the EOCO's review or work, they should have been asking EOCO that if you have investigated, what constitutes the investigation into the explanation to the sums of money, the $1 million, the others, and the extra that the OSP found, and huge sums in bank accounts at a time when the OSP's suggestion was that she didn't have any business that was a going concern, which could bring in those monies.
Yeah, Samson, and that's true, because if they had done the investigation, we would have at least had some cause or some substance to prove where these sources of monies came from in terms of EOCO's work. And it is quite clear from the documents that we have read and the bits that you've also just referenced that investigation doesn't seem to have been done. So I kind of worry a bit, when the AG is saying that EOCO did its own investigation. Who did they speak to? Which other sources did they bring in? How did they go about proving the instances of the monies, the bits of that 1 million and others? That's right. All not done.
Doc, thankfully we have the OSP's Director, Strategy, Research and Communications Division, Samuel Apiadako, joining us. Yes, you have questions to answer. The EOCO that you simply gave your docket to said they wrote to you asking to know about what the FBI you spoke about was doing. You didn't give them anything. They needed further information. You didn't help them. And this is where we are. So you didn't do your job well.
Thank you very much, Samson. First of all, let me state on record that when the OSP made a referral to EOCO, there were standing committees that were supposed to collaborate because we had not entirely washed our hands of the case. So there were two representatives, one from EOCO and one from us. But I also like to put on record that at no point in time has EOCO requested for a copy of the FBI report.
Really?
We need to be very accurate. At no point in time did EOCO request for a copy of the FBI report. But Samson, let me also go ahead to say that even if EOCO had requested for a copy of the FBI report, it was not just going to be that simple that FBI report would have just been given to EOCO. Remember, there are MOUs between OSP and the FBI. And they are also, I'm aware that there are also MOUs between EOCO and FBI. And this particular investigation was in respect of OSP, in respect of corruption.
But you are making a serious claim. The letter says that we observed that by a letter dated 1st February 2024, you wrote to the OSP to furnish you with a copy of the findings on the case to facilitate your investigations. You inform us that to date, the OSP has not responded to your request. Before that, they have said that it is noted, before that they have said that it is noted, however, that the OSP did not present a copy of the report on the collaborative investigations conducted with the FBI to your outfit. Neither are the findings of the transboundary investigations conducted by the OSP stated in the OSP docket to you.
What you've read is very clear, and I've also had the opportunity to read the same thing you are reading from. You notice that in that paragraph that talks about investigative report, and I will come to that, but let's just finish. That paragraph never said that they requested for FBI report. They rather said that they had not seen the FBI report. So we want to make it very clear. EOCO did not request for it. And I'm saying that even if EOCO requested for it, this FBI report has a lot of confidentiality clauses on it that was directed particularly to the special prosecutor. And you can't just give an FBI report to another agency because you have transferred. There ought to be a lot of what I call interagency collaboration and clearance. And so if it had happened, then we may have triggered clearance so that either we are cleared by FBI that, oh, you can send it, or FBI would directly send it to them. The other point I want to make is that the OSP should be taken as a whistleblower to EOCO. So as a whistleblower, we have given EOCO, we gave EOCO platinum information. Ordinarily, you will not even find other agencies give such information to EOCO. And let me tell you exactly what we gave to EOCO. So you notice that Attorney General's office talks about a docket. It's not just a docket. That particular docket has caution statements of suspects and witnesses, about 20 suspects and witnesses in America, in Accra, and in Ashanti region. And these are investigations that we have done that give us the sense that almost everything we have looked at may fall in the realm of money laundering. So it is not just in respect of a transaction in America, but also in respect of the monies, the over 10 million Ghana cedis, if you convert, that we found in Ms. Dapaah's house, and including all the monies we saw passing through her bank account. So our referral is not just in respect of a transaction in America. Also, we were not conducting money laundering investigation. We were conducting corruption investigation. And so we are of the opinion that we had all that it takes to send that referral to EOCO, because on that basis, there is no way we could have proceeded and then investigated and then write a report on money laundering for EOCO, then EOCO will send to AG. No, we only referred a matter to EOCO as whistleblowers for EOCO to investigate. And that point, I think, ought to be very clear. And we were not under any obligation to have conducted a money laundering investigative report and given it to EOCO. Then what will EOCO do? Because we cannot instruct EOCO as to what they are supposed to do. The fact that the Attorney General directed the police to ascertain the sources of the money exposes as bare the conclusion that the OSP's request for investigations is baseless. If it is baseless, why has the police been directed by the AG to follow the money? The OSP's request to EOCO to do investigation in relation to money laundering is akin to saying EOCO should follow the money and its sources. And this money, we don't mean transactions only in America to Ghana. We mean the entirety of the money we came across. The OSP is not
you have also been
privy to the
informed.
state of affairs.
You have also been informed. You have done all of this. So you have some information that goes to the source of the money or what should constitute the predicate offense on the basis of which they can do a good job. And you are not helping them with that. That's the AG's charge to you.
Samson, isn't that funny? And I'm using the word funny advisedly. EOCO has platinum information. Let me go back to it. The statements that were taken from people in America has details of how they transported the money into Ghana, whether they went through the rightful source or not to bring the money to Ghana. If you are looking for a predicate offense, which I don't share in that law, because if you read the memorandum to Ghana's Anti-Money Laundering Act, it states clearly that money laundering is also an offense on its own. That does not require any predicate offense. And that is why the lawmaker created Section 1.3. So even if a court of law,
but the Attorney General has pointed you to the Attorney General has pointed you to a precedent where the court refused in such a circumstance that you are urging them to do.
That is why we have an appeal. So the state ought to appeal, because then the judge is rewriting the law. Because if all members of parliament come together and in the memorandum to the bill states that the reason why we are including this is to enable us to be able to try money laundering as an offense on its own, particularly when we cannot discover the sources of income. And I'm also trying to say that the docket we gave to EOCO, if you go through it very well, especially the statements we took from suspects and witnesses, you notice that there is every indication for you to be able to follow the money, because these people have stated as to whether Madame Dapaah could have had such monies or not. For instance, we also just did not send them statement. We also added every other relevant information, including some chiefs and people in Madame Dapaah's hometown also coming to us to say that the monies and the gold and the things we are all talking about is even a family heirloom. This I know that many Ghanaians are not aware. So we are trying to say that we should be looked at as whistleblowers, and that every information EOCO needed to start investigation, the OSP had provided. Sometimes for interagency collaboration, we do not want to muddy the waters. But when we began investigation into this matter, and I'm going to say this with all the caution that I need to do.
Yes, and that'll be
sometimes I feel like
that'll be the final point you make. Yeah.
Police, I will give you an example. When we started these investigations and we went to police, up to today, we do not have any docket from the police in respect of even the house helps of Madam Cecilia Dapaah. Because when we began our investigation, we wanted all those information, including the caution statement of all those maid servants who are standing trial, because we needed all that to be able to do a very good job. But we did not get it. Nonetheless, we proceeded and did our own investigation, and we were able to even recover more monies from Madame Dapaah's house. All that we are saying is that no blame should be laid on the doorstep of OSP as an inability of another agency to do its job, because we were not required.
Samuel Appiah, Director, Strategy, Research and Communications, Division of the OSP. Thank you very much for your time. Do I still have the Attorney General on the line? All right. Okay, so this is where we will draw the curtains on this subject matter, because obviously this will continue to attract attention for discussion.
The 2 state agencies. And after the Attorney General will preside over the 2 state agencies and ensure that the 2 agencies collaborate. But they are across purposes, and that for me is a problem.
Okay. Dr. Cece Dapaah, in a minute, concluding comments?
Yeah, so again, for me, my concluding comment, I don't believe what the AG is said this morning on the platform, given what we've seen in terms of the documentation and related matters. So we need to do more, but clearly it comes across to me that this would most likely become a police case.
Interesting. And as I read to you the CDD statement, they are also deeply concerned about the turn of events. And they say the president appears to want to exonerate targets of some of these investigations, and they are not getting to a conclusive end in those matters. They are asking the president to stop telling Ghanaians about being the government that is giving anti-corruption agencies the most money. They say that is nothing if you will not allow them to do the work and do it well. We'll take a break here. We'll return with the EC and also Immani explaining why they do not believe the EC when it says that it auctioned obsolete BVDs and did actually need to change for fresh machines rather than using the old ones. We'll be right back.
And no believe we said in the public space.
Yeah.
You have polling agents. You have police officers. You have voters who are keen to vote. And you think that I will influence them in that public space. If I were to influence them, do you think that I would do it in that public space?
No, the manner in which it was.
No, I'm saying that if I wanted to influence them, do you think that I would have done that in the public space?
So what was it? That's all.
Just I'm saying that when I'm done, I will talk about. But what I want to put on record is that I have not bribed anybody, I have not influenced anybody to vote or to do anything untoward for my candidate.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. Joining us for this next segment, looking at the development that happened at the Ejisu By-Election on Tuesday. Dr. Cece Dapaah is still on. Abraham Maliba, who is the NDC's Director of Conflict Resolution, is also here. We are joined by Richard Ahiagba, who is Director of Communications of the New Patriotic Party, and Dr. Srebo Kweku, who is Director, Electoral Services at the Electoral Commission. Gentlemen, thank you so very much for making time to join us. Right. On this matter also, the questions that are being raised is that, Richard, your candidate, let's deal with the election itself first, before the outcome of the election, before the other issue that took the shine of the elections. Your candidate had in excess of 27,000 votes, won by 55.8%, right? And then the independent candidate, the former MP, also Diome, made 21,000 plus, 43.3 plus percent. And he was, as we understand, sort of sponsored by Alan Tremanting or the Movement for Change, or that he identifies himself with the butterfly. People say this signals that if in a place where you have nearly 100% stronghold, you struggle the way you did to win the elections, the president had to go there. The vice president had to go there. The constituents were talking about all of a sudden earth-moving machines that were seen on some of the roads that had to be done, that had not been done. And then we have people talking about vote buying, that particular vehicles were going around and dishing out, 100 Ghana cedis to induce votes. That says 2024 December is going to be difficult for the NPP.
Samson, thank you very much, and good morning to my co-panelists and to your good self. I think that the Ejisu by-election is a litmus test, I guess, as you tried to put it, for 2024. But for us, it's a good indication of what work we must do, not necessarily for the intra-party outcomes, that we need to intensify the reconciliation work that our party has started. So we have regional reconciliation committees that are working actively to address some internal electoral matters, which has created, discomfort for some people, and that really is what came to head at the Ejisu by-election. So there are internal matters, that individual interpersonal issues that has risen to become a party issue rather than individual issues. So that, for me, is the sum total of the difficulty we faced in Ejisu. It is completely and entirely distinct from an interparty electoral calculations for the party. If the elections 2024 were held today in Ejisu, the New Patriotic Party would win, as expected. The reason, quite simply, being, if you're looking at the outcome of the by-election, Mr. Eduomi campaigned as a New Patriotic Party member. That's what he did. He didn't campaign as an NDC or as any other political party member, but he campaigned as NDC, MPP. And so, therefore, the vote he got, quite simply, if you add to what MPP candidate Kwabena Boateng got, I think a total of about 99% or so of the vote went to a New Patriotic Party. So that's how you need to process that. And the calculation of the difficulty of him having gotten a vote really is one and the same MPP vote. So there's no difficulty there as in terms of inter-party election in December versus NDC or any other political party, the New Patriotic Party who struggled and Ejisu. What that gives us to do, the indication for us in Ejisu, is that we have work to do internally. And if you heard our national chairman talked about, even to the extent of talking to Eduomi, to realize that he must come home. And I think that that's the groundwork that we must do in all regions, but most especially in the Ashanti region, to reconcile and bring our troops back home and identify that what exists internally are interpersonal issues that must not be made to become a party issue that potentially could affect the party's prospect in 2024. So I guarantee you that before that day happens, when the EC allows all of us to vote on the 7th, those matters will be done and dusted, and the New Patriotic Party will move strongly with expected victory in Ashanti region, starting from Ashanti region.
Right. The CODEO, the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, have issued a statement, and they feel that the developments in Ejisu are very worrying and something ought to be done. They speak about the MP caught on video, which we get to shortly, but they also speak about where voters are seen and captured on camera showing 100 Ghana cedis, and they are pointing to somebody belonging to the NPP in a white vehicle who was the one going around and distributing those monies. They say the reported incidents of vote buying raise equally troubling concerns CODEO has observed with great worry the alarming and increasing incidence of vote buying in Ghana's elections, particularly during party primaries and by-elections. Although the right to vote is granted to each individual voter, the vote is not a piece of private personal property that the voter can sell or trade to anyone willing to pay for it. Beyond the disrespect to the individual voter in offering to purchase his or her inalienable rights, vote buying and vote selling undermine the people's collective right to be represented or governed by persons chosen in a free and fair elections. Vote buying goes against the fundamental principle of a free and fair election, the cornerstone of election integrity in a democracy. So how do you feel about that? That this was almost an internal contest,
right?
And yet money was just flying all over the place.
Well, to be very honest with you, I've seen those videos, but I don't know the sources of those monies they are referring to. I have not had reason to give money to anyone. I've been in that constituency for a good amount of time. I appreciate the work that was done by others, but for my team most especially, we did house to house, we did community engagement with a view of letting them know what the government has done, the track record of the individual who they have selected, Kwabena Boateng, to lead them to replace Dr. John Kuma, his capacity to be able to continue the work that was at stake. And I thought that the feedback we were getting was clear. And mind you, this is our constituency to win. And so we invested considerably for purposes of winning the election. Now, I don't see the place where we would have done all that work only to want to use money to induce people's votes. What I know may in some cases be considered will be, transportation, providing transport to bring people back and forth, especially the aged. But that is not what is being published on social media to have happened. But these monies that people are saying, I don't think that the party had any plans to do that. The party didn't organize anything to do that. Now, if individuals did that out of their own volition, that is not sanctioned. The track record of our party. We believe in one man, one vote. So any facilitation that will go against the proper conduct of election, I don't think that the party will sanction. And so to the extent that these things remain social media,
not social media,
evidence.
Our reporters actually captured the voters.
Yes, I'm saying that, but then they didn't say Richard gave it to me, right? They say somebody gave it to them. Who is that person? We don't know who. And it could well be these people posturing, because this political environment is festered with all sorts of machinations. So individuals could come up from the woodwork and do this and go and take this camera. I can tell you that similar things happen in Assin North, where people are saying, we're flashing money up.
They pointed to someone in a white vehicle who is a government official.
Okay, well, the police should find out who the person is, and then we can begin to have a substantive conversation. Otherwise, what this is before us is speculation. And I can tell you that people are capable of putting this up and creating the appearance that something grand like that has happened, that a new patriotic party went to Ejisu and was flashing money and buying votes left, right, center, right? Just to discredit the party, just to make the party look bad. People have capacity. They have the time, they have the resources to stage these kinds of things. But what I want to assure you and your viewers is that as a party, we've never sat down to orchestrate to say our strategy includes sharing money. We didn't do that. And I just told you that I was there considerable amount of time. Every evening, we went community engagement, concurrently with house to house, engaging people, sharing information, telling them why they must vote for their party, because we saw that the election was internal, and therefore we needed to cover every inch of space to ensure that the turnout was there and the victory was there for the party. So yes, I've seen those videos, but I could guarantee you that that cannot be a direct product of the New Patriotic Party sanctioning those behavior.
Abraham, How do you see those videos also, and what do you have to say about them? The Codeo, in specific reference to them, said that the videos captured various unrelated video clips. He said that there were two occasions. The first occasion is the Dr. Kingsley Nyako situation, and then they say the second captured in various unrelated video clips from the precincts of unidentified polling stations. Voters are seen relating how they were given cash and or other inducements. In one instance, cash plus an illegal substance to vote for or upon admitting to having voted for a particular candidate in the election. There are suggestions in these videos that such incidents of blatant vote buying occurred on a widespread scale in the Ejisu By-Election.
Yeah. So let me start by saying that the results from the Ejisu By-Election is a clear indication that Ghanaians are tired of the MPP. Because Ejisu is not just a stronghold, it's a super stronghold. And what I mean by that is, within a stronghold, there are areas which are like no-go areas, and Ejisu is one of them. Now, the independent candidate never campaigned as MPP. In fact, there's a video clip of Baumia saying that the NDC is behind the independent candidate. The president, when he went there, said that the independent candidate, he cannot work with the independent candidate, and that independent candidates cannot come to him for projects. Never mind, that was another loose talk by the president, because he's lucky today, it's not the one subject matter. But
the independent candidate was pointing to roles that he had done when he was a minister and MP. The president also said, nobody is able to bring road construction if I don't sign that contract. So don't let him take credit for it.
Yes, and he said that he can't work with independent candidates. My point about the president's conduct is that it is becoming clear that he does not live by his oath to do good to all manner of persons. For him, you must be a party person to benefit from the country's resources. But that's not the point. The point is about the independent candidate who never campaigned on the ticket of the MPP, as Ihagba is saying. He campaigned on his credibility. Whereas the MPP descended in that constituency with national security, every government official was at the place. Nonetheless, you struggle to win. So it's a clear indication that the people of this country are no longer going to be hoodwinked by your machinations. But the vote buying, I saw three things. I saw three types of vote buying. The first one has to do with money that is distributed to, those who were there to vote, the voters. That's the first one. The second one is money distributed to election officers, as you saw in the video.
There's evidence of only one instance.
We can't tell, because that's what we capture. Indeed, this would have gone unnoticed, but for your cameraman who unconscious, because he was not also capturing that incident.
That's right.
But so we can't tell. Then the third one is distribution of the desperation that has now caught up with the MPP, such that apart from now inducing voters with money, we are beginning to induce voters with
Can this be believable?
It cannot. It cannot. And
that a party will be distributing weed.
Yes.
Is it believable? Would you like to project that further?
I would want to understand it from the perspective of those who were interviewed. There was this old lady, which your cameraman captured, saying that money was added to the and packed. So when it was given to the young man thought that money was all throughout to the bottom of the envelope, not knowing the money was just up. And so when they took it off, they saw the weed. That's what our desperate MPP is getting all of us to. This is condemnable. And
from where you sit, does that not give you an indication somewhat that this may have been contrived to destroy the reputation of the process, and that the NPP will not be involved in doing such a thing? Distributing weed?
How many days after the elections now? Has the NPP distanced itself from it? Have they issued a statement? Have they issued a statement even condemning the actions of their MP? Have they? They've not done that. So, if you've not done all this to distance yourself from all these ills, whom else do we have to attribute these ills to? But I think that it is for the state to act. What we can do, don't have the police, I don't control the police to investigate these matters. But I'm told this morning that the special prosecutor has invited the MP and 2 officials of the EC have also been picked up by the police. My only problem with the EC was when my good friend Srebo here said that we shouldn't jump into conclusion and that we don't know what is in the envelope yet. The man himself said that it was money, which is in the envelope. So, and that...
At the time Dr. Srebo was giving caution, will you say that was not a responsible way to communicate? Because you're being told of an event. You may have seen a clip of it, but as a lawyer, you would know that it's not that easy to make a conclusion.
Oh, before he made his statement, we had all gotten to know from the man's own comment that first it was documents, then he moved from documents to money.
He was on the field. The possibility that he would not be listening
so he shouldn't
to radio.
So he should have also be guarded.
Is that not rather where you would say that you don't have to blame him?
No, but
when the journalists approached him, this has happened to your officers. You were with the officers a while ago. Just when you left, somebody came there and gave them envelopes containing money. And he says, well, that's bad enough, but let's not be in a hurry to condemn whoever, whatever is in the envelope. Again, he also saw the video and saw that his officers, some of them, we saw in the video that they were not actually receiving. It was dropped and they seemed to move away before one picked it.
So he himself shouldn't have said that those of us who knew that was money should be circumspect. How are we going to be circumspect when we knew it was money? He hadn't seen it. Yes. So he should have been also cautious in telling us to be circumspect when we knew that it was money.
You could have only suspected it was money, not that you...
No, but the man had then come out to indicate that, yes, it was money he gave them for lunch.
At that time, he didn't say so.
For lunch.
At that time, he said it's documents, it could be something else.
Yes, documents. Then he moved away from the documents and then landed on the money. But in any case, you can see clearly that this was premeditated. It wasn't about money because these were packed in envelopes. And we don't move along with money packed in envelope in our pockets. What happened to a 50 cedis note to buy lunch? What happened to a 20 cedis note to buy lunch? But how do you give bulky sums of money in an envelope to say that was lunch? So clearly, it was corruption.
Since you have gone there, Richard, what do you have to say about that?
It was corruption and
what do you also have to say about that particular incident?
Yeah, to be very honest with you, I think I appreciate your questioning because I think he responded after the EC report came out to indicate what was happening there. So truly, I concede that the look and feel of that video, okay, tells you that something is afoot. And if you look at it ordinarily, you come to that conclusion. But if you then take a moment to examine it and say, okay, well, given the skepticism, now let me look at it objectively and see what is happening. You see an individual who gave, people he'd been chatting with about what the process has been, if things were going all right and all of that, which is the standard questioning if we go monitoring. And on the basis of their chat, maybe establishes that they are not eating at the time, and so therefore, take this. You could, in shedding your skepticism, understand that probably it's okay to have done that, or it's reasonable for him to have done that. Though you won't do it, I won't do it, given the general environment. But you see, Maliba is talking about what happened to 50 Ghana cedis to buy lunch. If he had given 1 cedi to buy water, the same conversation will be had here. So it has nothing to do with the envelope or it is 50 cedis. The idea is that the individual in the moment decided to give that. I want to say very clearly that it is not a party design for him to do that. Abaripa was saying that the party has not disassociated itself, we have not issued any statement. I spoke before you and I did say that the party didn't sanction anything like that. At any rate, I wasn't given any money to go and give anybody. And so I speak from that place to let you understand that the party did not sanction that. Now, on his own humanitarian level, feels he wants to do that, we can judge it for what he has done and then apply what systems we can put in place to check that in the future. But he did that out of his goodwill, seeking to help another. It cannot be for the purposes of the New Patriotic Party, because I know he's not been put to that. And he had not.
The Kodeo statement speaks about what many believe ought to be what the party, the NPP, should be candid in confronting. It says that in the reported incident, it is even more telling that the supposedly innocent offer of lunch money came preconcealed in an envelope. It is because of the practical impossibility of proving one's motive in offering or accepting offers of lunch or lunch money in these circumstances, that the best policy in matters of this kind is a zero tolerance policy prohibiting such conduct on both the side of the giver and the receiver. So the suspicion now is, and it's a reasonable suspicion,
yes,
isn't it?
Yes.
That he must have had this kind of preconcealed envelopes, not one, and must have gone round and distributed them, except that on this occasion, without planning, the videos caught him.
Yes. I think what the point they're generalizing from that incident to say that he's done that, possibly he's done that everywhere else, except only one camera caught him. That's a reasonable generalization to make under the circumstance. But I'm saying that even if that is what he's doing, to what extent is that capable of influencing the outcome?
How do you know?
Please. To what extent? Because we're exploring the matter.
Do you condemn it?
Absolutely, I've said that. That I'm saying that I wouldn't have done that. He knows he shouldn't have done that. But then on the
you
on
condemn
the
it. You say you condemn it.
I just indicated to you.
So if you condemn it, then there must be something wrong with it.
Yes, I just told you that the look and feel of it, okay, and the circumstances in which that was offered can be problematic, right?
He says he was offering lunch.
That's what I'm saying, yes. So now, when you shed your skepticism, then you get to listen to him and say, okay, well, under what circumstance will he do that? One, he had established that the people had eaten lunch at the time he was there.
10 a.m. He forgot when he was writing that statement.
Well, I don't know, but
that was 10 a.m. when he was caught.
You see, something. The fact is what we are dealing with. That's what he has said. We can read our meanings into.
No, we are not reading meanings. He was caught on Joy News.
Yeah.
And at the time, the program that was airing, it airs at 10 a.m.
I'm not disputing that. I'm saying what he has said on record is what we are discussing, right? Unless you want us to go away and then begin to imagine why he would do that and read into his motives. But what is substantial is the fact that he gave it for the purposes of lunch, which is on record. And I'm saying that in that moment, you look at the issue twice and say, okay, well, when I look at it skeptically, I think that this man is trying to corrupt or compromise the people. But under what circumstance would he do that in the open? And to what point and what instruction was issued? When he gave the money, the envelope to them, he didn't say anything else.
When you look at the video, he was not actually giving in the open as he claims. You will see that the officials were at one side, where the police officer was. Mm-hmm. And then he has a conversation with them, and they move away from the police officer to the other extreme. It is at that point that he is dropping the envelope, picks it from his pocket. We cannot say it's in the open because he didn't know that the cameras were capturing him.
Well, the camera is not a definition of the open. The place was open. The camera is just a lens that's captured. The open is where the people were, right? So they moved from one end to, I think it was just one, the gentleman that moved to join the lady. The lady was stationary at the table. The gentleman joined him. And so still in the same election perimeter. But the substantial point, and I think I agree with you largely in saying that this is something that looks suspicious. But I think that we need to be cautious in reading such meanings. I totally disagree with Kodio in making the point that on the basis of one instance, then we're saying that the 5 police stations that he was in charge of, he was doing that. I mean, it's a reasonable extension to make, but for me, I say that it's a stretch too far. Let's understand that, yes, under certain human circumstances, one will want to be generous, and he had stated, to the extent that we can't read his mind, we can't plug in and decode what his real intent were.
Have you ever been part of election monitoring and you got to election officers and felt like giving the officers lunch? You've done that before?
I have not done that before.
You won't do that, will you?
Well, if a demand is made of me and I feel I could meet it, but it hasn't happened to me. Now, because it hasn't happened to me, or none of us here have done it before, we cannot say that it's not possible.
Okay.
That under the circumstance, just one quick second, under the circumstance, what he felt, what sympathy or what connection he felt with them to want to do that to these 2 individuals, that for me is a matter under investigation. So I think the full fact will be available for us.
Dr. Sribo Kweku, Kodeo says they applaud the Electoral Commission for acting swiftly once you became aware of the incident by withdrawing the 2 officials for further involvement in the conduct of the elections, initiating an internal investigation of the incident, and referring the matter to the Ghana Police Service for further investigations. However, they are urging you to issue a strict directive with appropriate sanctions to implement a zero-tolerance policy against offering lunch money or other gifts to election officials or election officials accepting such offers or gifts in the course of performing their duties. What do you say?
Thank you, Samson, and regards to your listeners and my colleagues. I will first want to respond to Mr. Amariba's disagreement with me. Now, at the time that incidentally, I was the one who, the journalist, followed to that center.
Right.
So according to him, it was just about 5 minutes after I have left that the incident took place. Now, at the time that immediately he came to me, and I got the opportunity to watch the video. And if you look at the video at that time, you read that it was dropped onto the table. You did not see our officers picking it. So I said that we should not be in a hurry to judge, because at that time, when it was put on the table, did they pick it or they did not? If they picked it, what was the content? We didn't know all these things. So we said, okay, let's go and replace them. And when in the heat of election, anything that you do, it attracts attention. So let's replace them. Let's finish with the election, then we'll investigate the matter. It was later that we got to know that when our regional editor went, they said that when it was dropped, they took it. And it said it was money for lunch.
And you told the public that also?
Exactly. So I don't know, at that time that I was speaking, and to be frank with you, if I look at the video, it's difficult for you at that time to know whether it was an envelope, whether it was a handkerchief. You couldn't just draw. So I said that it will be investigated. So we should not be in a hurry. Because sitting here, I would have been happier if they did not pick the envelope. Right? The hand was stretched. They didn't receive it. It was dropped. So if at that time they had not picked it, the man had gone for his own envelope, commission would have been exonerated. But it followed at the later, they went and took it. So that's what it was. So at that time that I was making my statement, I said, don't preempt the investigation and let us know what has transpired. So now we know the story, and the election was held on Tuesday when they passed at the office. And I went and met the OSP people there, interrogating our people. So it means that the interrogation is going on. So personally, I'm not happy with the way we are discussing issues and that. When you do that, people will begin to change their statement and other things. So at the end of the day, you may not get to the root of the issue. That's why we were thinking that we should have allowed the professional people to handle it instead of come out with our judgments and the rest.
Right.
So it is upon the strength of that.
This MP, did he have permission to go into that perimeter and to have ex parte communications with the officers?
What we did is that normally when we are doing elections, we give the parties accreditation as agents.
Right.
They will give observers. But what we are expecting is that I will go and meet my people, talk to them about how the exercise is going on. So if there are any anomalies that we can rectify, we'll do. We expect that the parties have also sent their agents to the centers. So they should also be interacting with them. So that when we are doing something wrong or anything is going on, they can also inform their superiors. So when we finish, it will interest you to know that when we finish the collation and we finish the results, it is not the agents who came to endorse the constituency results. It is the party executives. So based on whatever they have also observed, that's what they will endorse. And all those who endorsed the final results were more of
But you've not answered the question. He says, did he have permission to be there?
That's what I said. That we can go and talk to our people. The observers, because they have the accreditation, they can also go and talk to their agents, because the agents are also there.
How do you feel? How do you feel when it is said, and people also feel sometimes you are not treating your officials as you ought to, and they become vulnerable.
Yeah.
And this is what this MP is playing up, that you haven't fed them, so they were hungry at 10 a.m.
I believe you yourself, you said that at the time. Normally, we don't give them food. No, we don't. What we said that everything that we give them is consolidated. So they should prepare themselves. It's a one-day activity. Prepare themselves and go and perform their activities. Then when they finish and we give them the money, it will have included everything.
We've heard time on our number that they say they have not been paid after the exercise.
At the end of the day, they are paid.
That's not the matter.
That is it. That's
Right.
part of it.
That's not
Kodeo's suggestion, are you taking it, that you should issue zero tolerance policy directives to the officials?
That is exactly the reason why they did not pick it. Because they know that the commission will not tolerate it. That's why they did not pick it. But off camera or off view, then because it has been put over there, so they pick. If you had not been warning them, I believe when he stretched the hand, they would have picked it. So anybody who works with the commission knows that they are not supposed to be picking anything from this. But you know, if in the view of people, in the public view,
right,
you behave correctly, but behind the scene, it's a different ballgame.
All right, quickly, Dr. Theo Champong, what do you have to say about the developments there? First, about the NPP having, of course, it was a high-stakes elections, because that one particular constituency could have determined what parliament becomes, majority or minority. So it was important to them. How they all went in there, and the outcome suggesting, as Richard also admits, that they have issues that they need to attend to. Does it give you some, as it were, insights into December? And what do you expect to be done to this MP and the vote buying issues?
Yeah, as for the MP and the vote buying issues, I think it's under investigation. So let's leave that at that. But I support the Kodio call for the EC to come up with some zero tolerance policy regarding the conduct of their officers and things like that. I think that's a progressive step forward. But to the more interesting and substantive sort of political issues, I mean, yes, Ejisu is a super important bellwether in terms of how things are likely to play out into December of this year. The first point I want to make is that if you look at the pre-election polling that was done and the results that came, largely what the candidate got was within the margin of error that the pre-election polls that the likes of Global Info Analytics and others, had done. But I think what's even more interesting for me, and which Richard alludes to, is the fact that there are divisions within the party, and there are issues, particularly in some aspects of the Ashanti region, which is going to be a core voting bloc for the party come December of this year. If you don't have a lot of people turning up to actually vote for the party in December, or in other words, if you have a lot of apathy, as we saw in 2008, then there are issues, right, for the party. Normally, in such by-elections, you do have relatively low voter turnout in by-elections. So you sometimes read the results with a bit of a caveat. But I think what's really interesting for me when you unpack the numbers further, vis-a-vis what the Adionum got when he got elected as an MP, and then what the late John Kuma also got, and you do the trend analysis and all, it doesn't speak that great. It tells me that there are a lot of frustrations, there's a lot of anger, and many of the ordinary citizens in some of these core strongholds actually feel that they have not fully benefited from their party, quote unquote, right, being in power. The question then becomes, to what extent would this then translate into potential voter apathy come December? We're yet to see that. But again, you look at the numbers, and I like to play with the numbers. In Ejisu and in most of these other super constituencies, typically the MPP is polling about 82%, right? So basically 8 in 10 of the people who vote would vote for the MPP, and then the NDC normally does about 17 or so percent using Ejisu historical voting patterns. The concern now becomes, if you have that number dropping to even, let's say, 70%, right, or even for argument's sake, 75%, then that does not, augur well for the fortunes of the incumbent, administration. So clearly, they have a lot of work to do in trying to close the divisions within the party. A lot of reconciliation had to be done. And I think this week it was the former railways minister, Ameya Kumfi, who I read on one of the news publications, making the same case that the party needs to close its ranks and be united for the battle ahead. Else, they could be looking at a completely different turn of events, especially in some of these, super strongholds where there are deep frustrations and resentment amongst members of the party.
All right. So they should also be worried about the apathy as was exhibited. So the turnout was not as encouraging as would have been expected. Right. Thank you all so very much on this. But by and large, you pat yourselves on the back for having ensured that everything was successful on the day, right?
Yeah, I think, but for this bridge,
right,
you will have read that it was seamless.
Okay.
And I was happy when we finished the collation. All the agents there signed and they congratulated us for good work done. If you look at the video issue, the only challenge is that the people should have taken when it was dropped on the table.
Yeah, but there are many people who can see in the video that it appears it was a gentleman who was saying, drop it instead of collecting it directly. Okay. And once it was dropped, you see that his hand, he tries to pick it or picks it by himself. Yes, yeah, you need to watch it a number of times. Okay. Yes, thank you very much. Now we are still talking about the Electoral Commission and issues coming up in that direction. But as far as the matter of the attempting to corrupt the EC officials is concerned, the instructions are that if you look at Section 256 of the Criminal Offences Act as amended and elevating the punishments there to felonies, there is something clearly wrong that someone will have to be punished for.
But I also think that we need to look at the distribution of we. That is a serious matter.
We'll take a quick break.
That one I agree with.
Return to find out where the BVDs were auctioned and if anything untoward happened. The EC is here with documents. You're welcome back. This Newsfile is your most authoritative news analysis platform. The EC is here with documents to show that experts and independent consultants did advise it that Ghana's biometric voting management system talking BVRs, BVDs, and what have you, the data centers that they are using, that before 2020, the BVRs and BVDs had come to end of life. They had become obsolete. And that, replacing them was cheaper than refurbishing them. Immani disagrees and says we have sunk in just too much to procure new machines when we could have done refurbishing the old, and has other issues with the manner in which the EC speaks about disposing of what it says was obsolete. So you have issued a number of statements in the course of the week. Help us to understand them.
Thank you once again, Samson. In the first case, what is the issue?
Yeah.
Is it the issue with the procurement or issue with disposal?
Both.
Okay. If you remind today, I will make you my reader. You want to read some documents for me?
Why not?
Okay, good. This is a document from HP Identification. They are the suppliers of the biometric equipment to STL. Please, if you can read here for the public.
And this is it's headed Biometric Voter Registration Kit, end of life. It's 18th May 2018. HSB Identification BV, the Netherlands, has been supplier to Supertech Ghana Limited for the Biometric Voter Registration Kits BVR, used in consecutive voter registration exercise for the elections in Ghana in the past decade. We would like to announce that items in the present BVRs are end of life, including laptops. This means that no components are available to repair items. For purposes of availability, maintainability, and compatibility in the future, we recommend to purchase new BVRs. If you have any questions, please contact us. Sincerely, signed.
These are the suppliers of the equipment that we are saying they are obsolete. Mm-hmm. That others are saying they don't agree. And Samson, this is what the
Supertech that they referred to. Okay, so whilst the first letter I read was 18th May 2018, this one is 19th November 2018, and it goes to the Deputy Chair of Operations at the Electoral Commission, and it's headed Status of Existing BVRs After Preliminary Checks on January 2018. Following your request to receive the status of existing BVRs after preliminary checks on January 2018 conducted by our teams, we have examined preliminary around 2,500 kits. The tested kits are mainly kits which are serviceable on the 2016 registration exercise. B, 60% of the laptops need to go under service for replacing CMOS batteries, which the original manufacturer refuses to conduct himself due to EOL, end of life, and to take responsibility for the repair. C, in addition, approximately 26% of the laptop are not working or partially faulty. D, 8.5% of the printers are faulty. E, 17% of the batteries are faulty. F, from our experience, the preliminary checks turn on and checking connections cover only some of the faults, and once installing, the image more will fail. Okay, once installing, the image more will fail. G, we would like to remind that in the 2016 registration, we had in total 47% failure rate of the BVRs during the preparation to registration period. We had high rates of failure of prepared kits which were sent to the registration exercise, which created challenges during the registration. H, the BVR kits are more than 7 years old and end of life and can hardly be supported. Please refer to a letter we have received from our supplier, Messrs. HSB, earlier this year. That's what I read earlier. And I, finally, please note that the tests were conducted 11 months ago. All right?
Then,
have you finished reading?
you're tired, eh? Yeah, I mean, this is the consultant who helped us to adopt the biometrics in 2012. So he was hired by UNDP to support the Electoral Commission to do the work. So we also invited him to also come and do assessment. And he's a Canadian Zambian. These are some of the comments he also made.
Okay, so we can read just about three of these comments. The conclusion is that the biometric tool set is obsolete and has reached end of life. The biometric tool set is provided, operated, and maintained by a single vendor. The total cost of ownership of the biometric tool set has reached unsustainable levels, in part due to the numerous additions made to the original solution without resorting to a competitive bidding process. For instance, upgrades and additions acquired in 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2018 were made through a single source bidding process. The EC perceives that it did not get the best value for the invested money.
So this is the third advice.
Yes.
This is the fourth one.
Yes, please make the point you want to make with the fourth one and continue.
Fourth one is also by lasting.
Okay.
So when the commission came, they invited the junior man that you helped to acquire this biometrics. Now the supplier of the equipment and the producer of the equipment and the supplier are saying that they are of no use now. Dunia come and advise us, and that comment is what you read. Then we brought in Lasting to also come and also have an assessment of it. And he also came and also confirmed all these things. Now you are a new commission that has come to town. What will you do? So what the commission did was that, in that case, let us find a way of managing the system to finish with the referendum, that was 2018, and the 2019 elections. Then when we finish, as everybody is recommending, that we acquire a new system so that we can go to 2020. And those of you, I believe everybody can know that in 2019, during the DLE, there were a lot of complaints. My name is missing, by this, by that. But because it was this level election, the tension and the atmosphere was a bit manageable. So going into 2020 with these complaints, it would have set the country into serious disaster. So that's why the commission decided that let's go and acquire a new equipment. And if you look at the data here, you read that the cost of refurbishment, you say you can't read more.
Cost of refurbishment of the obsolete machines was supposed to be for $56 million US. But the current commission opted to replace them with new equipment and infrastructure at a cost of $68 million US.
And this one was just refurbishment for 2018 and 2019 before you go into negotiation to acquire new equipment, right? And if you look at the unit cost at that time, the unit cost, they are all here. So what the commission thought of was that let's just try and manage what we have for the referendum and the 2019 DLE. Then we'll go ahead and acquire new equipment.
The unit cost of refurbishment was supposed to be $3,465 per BVR kit.
Yes.
Higher than the cost of new ones at $3,423.28.
So, Samson, being in the shoes of the community, what will you do? The refurbishment, which was meant for only 2018 and 2019, was even higher than acquiring a new kit. So what would be your decision? So with respect to the acquisition and the rest, I don't want to be wasting much time on it because we did a lot of discussion on it in 2020 and with a lot of theories. To me personally, sitting here, I don't know what the many people are seeking to achieve. I find it difficult. Now, with respect to, so you can see that a lot of savings were made for going for new equipment. Even the previous one, they had only one data center. And that one, they said the data itself was also had a challenge. Because initially we were thinking that, was it not possible that all those who are already on the system could be transferred onto our new data center? And they said that the quality of the data will not be sustainable by the new one. They said in transfer, we'll end up losing a lot of data. So in that case, let us acquire the new data. And for the refurbishment of the then data center was 50 million. Refurbishment, 50 million. The new one that was acquired was 6 million. 6 million.
Dollars.
All the records are here. And I wish that you officially have not been authorized to give it to you. So you can write, so you can have enough time. And so when you come to the disposal of the equipment, the Director for Administration wrote that because, and let's not forget that those that were disposed of were the 2012 to 2014 equipment, not the 2020 that is being used now.
Okay.
So the Director wrote that all these things, obsolete material, a lot of things, are occupying our stores. We don't have even the space. So why don't we dispose of all these things so that we can now have space to maintain our activities and the rest? So he wrote, then the commission wrote to the first, we wrote to the...
We're also showing you those machines. If you don't have an idea how they look like, you watch...
So these are the old ones. So they wrote to the state valuer, STCVI. So they value vehicles and other equipment, so you can see that motor vehicle equipment valuations are great.
So the question that arose from Immani's checks were that you didn't follow the requisite legal procedures.
That's what I'm taking.
And that's one too, you are showing that.
Exactly. So we asked the state valuer to value the documents that have been written to by the commission that they are obsolete. And these are the documents. I don't know whether you have time to read them. And it covers the regions, what we found, the various 16 regions, and our national business. This is the booklet.
So this was the basis for the auctioning?
Yes. So then we wrote to the Minister of Finance, seeking permission to... Yes. This is it. Today you say you don't want to read that.
Oh, it's important, so let's do it. Why not? Right.
So the commission wrote to the Minister of Finance, seeking permission to auction all these vehicles. The Minister of Finance...
request for authorization for the disposal of some unserviceable vehicles, motorbikes, and other obsolete items from stores.
Yes, so that's the locations. And the Minister of Finance wrote this.
Okay. The locations, are they up to 16? Because we have 16 regions.
17.
Okay, actually we have 17.
By the head office.
Plus head office.
17.
Okay. Oh, and this is from the Ministry of Finance. This is February 2023.
So this
also
is February 13 when we wrote.
Okay. Also, request for authorization for the disposal of some unserviceable vehicles, motorbikes, and other. And the ministry had this to say. We can share a few of them. That the Honourable Minister has granted approval for the Commission in accordance with Section 158(1)(b) of the Public Financial Management Regulations 2019, LI 2378, to dispose of by public auction 39 unserviceable vehicles, 10 unserviceable motorbikes, and 245,896 obsolete store items as stated in the board of survey attached to your letter under reference. So the 245,896 obsolete store items, are they the BVRs or BVDs?
Obsolete. So all the material that are here.
Okay. And then you were giving directions as to how to ensure that you complied with the law in the disposal.
Yes.
Okay.
So when all these things were done, then the commission established what we call the survey board. So that they are the committee or board that take charge of disposal of our materials. So, and we have database of our auctioneers, depending on that. So the 6 of the auctioneers were invited to come and be interviewed. So when they were interviewed, one of them was selected, and it's called Sanidasu Mat. Sanidasu Mat. So when he was interviewed, he also advertised in the papers.
Yeah.
On the 1st of February.
This is the Daily Graphic. Okay, Daily Graphic, Wednesday, February 1, 2023. Auction sale. There is going to be an auction sale at the EC offices, obsolete materials, store items, and serviceable vehicles, so and so at the headquarters, and the date is stated. You are saying that when you read the Immani release, they suggest that you didn't do all of these, and you are showing that you did them.
Yes. So when the advert was made, then the auction was done at the various stages. So that one had their days that they were done.
Okay.
So if anybody says that we did not go through the processes, there was the one they did, the man who wanted...
Immani spoke about shady procurement and waste of resources.
We'll come there.
They also spoke about a worse situation where they say they discovered through painstaking checks that the recycling companies engaged for the exercises do not have the strict certifications for source data destruction that is required when disposing of sensitive equipment like this.
This is the company that was giving the contract to the Electoral Cycling Company. And they also have the certificate from EPA. Also,
all right.
It's EPA that
okay.
So we went through all these processes and they were disposed of. You see, before the current commission, when we've been filmed with voting ballots and the ballot press, they are kept for 1 year. Then we burn them. And you know the implications of burning this quantum. Now with this modality, when we finish the election, we'll go to the procurement again, dispose out with the EP and the rest. So we give it, somebody will come and bid for it, buy them and pay money for those people that were burning. Now we pay. With this the procedure to, after the company has been given the materials, we also went to the offices and there to check whether they have facility to accommodate, because there are a large quantity of them.
All right.
They will check all this. And they paid the amount that they, what they call
Won the bid back.
Won bid with to the consolidated fund. And all these things can be checked because they are not secret issues that you can say that. That's why we are putting the names there. You go to Minister of Finance, it will show you. They will show you where the money was, whether money was there or not. I've given you the name of the company that won the...
Immani asked the question that you had said that you had auctioned only 10 out of over 70,000 devices. Why 10 and not
something? I want to
in
know
the thousands?
Which document did we say that we have auctioned 10? Which document? Because you go to
they say they have been relying more on documents
from where?
Parliament, particularly, because you deal with Parliament. You give documents to
and
Parliament.
we want, as I'm providing you documents, we also want to see their documents.
Okay.
Now, something, what we should be careful in this country is that we should not destroy our institutions without any intention. If care is not taken...
Without just cause, you
just
mean?
cause.
Yeah.
If you are going to depend on... You go on the internet, you look for information, then you draw conclusions, and at the end of the day, you'll be exposed. Because care, from 2020, we met by Simmons at your program here with our consultant, if you remember.
I remember.
And by Simmons was coming up with what you call Q control theory, that if you go in by that, we cannot register 4 million people within 40 days.
They have been concerned about the cost of our elections too much. Elsewhere, they are doing it for far less.
No, but if you look at our cost for 2020, in comparative terms, if you take 2016, the unit cost per person was $13.3. But if you take 2020, it was $7.7. So I don't know what we should do. And I can tell you, if you had used the what do you call it, the upgrading of whatever before the elections and acquired the new one, we're going to go beyond $20 per day. So, of everything that
Right.
But me, my concern is that I know Immani to be think tanks.
It's a think tank, yes.
If care is not taken, they become talk tanks.
Really?
Because if you just come out, throw figures out, and you don't substantiate
That is
them.
not fair. That is not fair.
Okay.
But they are fair to us.
That's not fair.
Just hold on. Just hold on.
Raising questions.
Just hold on. Just hold on.
Questions.
Thank you very much. Let's speak to Bright Simmons. Bright Simmons is with Immani, and he's a man who has been on this beat and has been digging out all that we need to know and giving the caution that has to be given over the period. Yes, Bright Simmons, thank you very much. He's with Immani Africa. Yes, Bright Simmons, let's hear you. You have heard the Electoral Commission. Be on this table, on this show, they appear to show that all the claims that you have made against them are not justifiable, are not factual.
Hi, Samson. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me clearly?
Very clearly, sir.
Okay, so this EEC matter, it's very delicate and very elaborate. And it's very easy if you're not paying a lot of attention to the nuances, the facts, the details, to be convinced by performances. And what my good friend in the studio, well, he's not my friend, but not the good gentleman in the studio, has just done is a performance. Look carefully at the dates and things like that, because as I proceed, you begin to see unraveling before your eyes this elaborate subterfuge that they've used to deceive Ghanaians for many years. Let's start with debunking a lot of the things he said right from the outset. This is the Civil Registration Center for Development. It's one of the world's leading think tanks that focuses on looking at elections in the world. And you were absolutely right when you pointed out to him that the cost of Ghana's elections have historically been very high. So if you think of, by 2016, for instance, the cost of elections in Ghana was about nearly 4 times the cost of elections in the UK. And that has been the case historically. What he does right now is absolutely and blatantly present falsehoods as facts by claiming, for instance, that the cost of elections in Ghana is $7.7. The cost of elections in 2020 was $7.7 per voter. We've seen these lies all the time.
On the onset, may I say that you don't say he's presenting falsehoods as facts, but present your facts as you know them and allow us to judge, because he backs what he says. He backs what he says with documents. Okay, go ahead.
He was commenting on my work and he did say, so this is primarily the way he would like to proceed. The $7.7 that he uses, if you go and look at the records in the Ministry of Finance, the Parliament, etc., that are public records, you will see how much money we spent in total in 2020 as 1.363 billion cedis. You can compare what we spent years before when we had no elections, and you can then subtract, as they do, to establish how much exactly we spent because of the elections. So what I'm saying is that it's very simple. You take the years before we had elections, say 2019, 2018, etc. Then you get to 2020 when we have elections. You look at the difference in terms of the budget amount allocated to the EC. When you get that number, it's about almost 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. Then you divide it by the total number of registered voters for that election, and you strike an average, you get $12.5, not $7.7. This is the highest we've ever seen, and one of the highest in the world. So when they tell you it's $7.7, either you can do the math yourself, as we've explained our methodology, or you take their word at face value. The problem in this country is that we don't have enough people, enough institutions, enough organizations that are willing to go through the fact-checking process and hold these institutions to account. So they just say anything and they get away with it. Number one. Now, to try and let us understand what is going on with the EC situation, you have to understand that the EC system is not one system. It's a number of different things. And Dr. Cecilia has mentioned a number of them in the studio. you have the system that more or less organizes and manages everything. You can think of it as an elaborate enterprise resource platform. You have the data center, which is mentioned. You have a database, which typically holds biometric data and other types of data. You have the software that does the validation of the biometric. You have the BVDs and the BVRs. Most of what we'll be talking about today is the BVRs and the BVDs. The satellite infrastructure and all of those things, VSATs and things, we will not go into them because we have no time. The BVRs are, think of them as a system made up of laptops, scanners, and cameras, which together allow you to register a person. The BVDs are, think of them like a point of sale terminal, similar to what you use when you go and buy something with your credit card. It's very similar, but in this case, the validation is not for cards, it's for fingerprints and other biometric data. So these are the two main things we are discussing: the biometric verification devices and the biometric voter registration kits. Here is information that the EC released during the debate in 2020. Now, Dr. Shribo is in the studio. I put it to him that this claim that they made, that all the devices that they have all been from 2011, cannot be correct. In fact, in your studio today, he's already acknowledged that there are some devices that come from 2014 and 2015. Even in your studio today, this information that they released is available on the internet. Everybody can go and check it. They claim that the devices that are in use for elections in these countries, the BVDs and the BVRs in particular, they are purpose-built for the EC. That is, these are devices that only the EC can use, more or less. They are specified purposefully for EC functions, and they date from 2011. And that was the basis of how we got involved as Immani. A lot of people think that when we got involved, it was simply to try and stall the EC. That was not what happened. What happened that we saw these statements where they claim that all the devices are from 2011, and based on that, the system as a whole is obsolete, and we need to spend a lot of money to buy new ones. We then started to do our research, and it is in encountering data that is not correct that led us to oppose the new register and the purchasing and procurement of the new system, and that led to this campaign in the first place. So keep that in mind. That is how Immani got involved. Immani had no issues with the EC until we saw this document. And that 2011 number, they used it until we exposed them, and then they stopped using it. They say the same also for the BVR. So they say both the BVD and the BVR, all of them have been in use since 2011. And this is fact that he cannot deny, because these are releases that they made themselves, and which he acknowledges and must acknowledge is complete lie. What led to our challenge was that we went in and we took a look at the records in Parliament, the records in the Ministry of Finance related to this matter. And these are matters that anybody can also go and check. We often call them program-based estimates, medium-term expenditure frameworks. These are what the agencies provide to the Ministry of Finance for you to use to project spending in the country. You saw that the letters that he was giving to you, all of them are from before May 2018. So that's how they played their tricks. Look at this document and look at the dates at which these purchases were conducted. You see that the BVR kits that were replaced, they happened in June of 2018 and October of 2019 in terms of the budgeting. But some of it is past years. So the past year purchases were 2,000 that were done in 2018. The BVRs are the laptops and those kind of things. You realize that these documents is showing you, suggesting that the system was obsolete, was what led the EC in 2018, after those documents have been issued, to buy new kits. So this is the trick that if you don't pay attention, you get confused. So look at the dates very carefully. You must realize that this EC was not in office. This current EC was not in office. The current commissioner and the key lieutenants were not in office. The current EC commissioner came to office in July of 2018. The documents was showing you were documents that the previous EC solicited in order to prove to Parliament that they needed more money to buy more equipment. So he collected those documents from vendors. Remember that vendors always want to sell more. So if vendors are not checked, they will always tell you the system, the device, it's better off if you buy fresh ones. Now it's a fact, right? So what she got those documents, she sent them to Parliament as part of her engagement with parliamentarians to prove that this country needed to buy new devices. Money was then released. Based on the monies that were released, to buy new devices. But the truth of the matter is that if you go back, you will see that in 2016, for instance, we bought 500 DVRs, and the number there is not refurbishment, it's replaced. You also see that the dates are past years, which means this investment that had already been made. Why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because they make it look as if the BVDs all bought at the same time, the BVRs are bought at the same time, etc. That's not the truth. The truth is that we've been buying them in bits and pieces, 500 today, 2,000 today. So you see that this one that I showed those 2,000 kits. The total case that they bought at one go was 8,500. Before the BVR, the laptops, let's just say the laptops, so everybody is not confused. The laptop that they bought in 2018, in that June period, that was 2,000. And we had another one, 500, bought in 2016. Two things are proven by these two documents. One being that not all the devices were bought in 2011 has the EC plate. The second fact is that they don't buy them all at once in the past. Because what they used to do is that when they find out that some are faulty, they replace them. The third critical fact is that the document that is shown to you that claimed that the BVDs and things like that were obsolete were in early 2018, and the EC that was then active, or rather in power or in office, used those documents to generate the basis on which Parliament has to give them more money to buy more devices.
What changes? What changes?
Right?
The fact that these documents had been prepared by the previous EC to Parliament to justify why there was a need for replacement, would they simply came and implemented? What's the problem?
You are confusing yourself. No, Samson. I'm saying that if the devices, they are not one device. It's not like every time we went buy device at one time and all of them are bought at the same time. They are bought at different periods. So in your portfolio, think of it as a box, and you have different laptops in it. The laptops are bought at different times. So there are indeed some laptops that date from 2011 for the 2012 elections. And there are some laptops that you buy after that. And there are some laptops that you buy maybe 3 years ago. So when you look at the full set of laptops, not all of them will be obsolete. Some will be obsolete and you will replace them. So the latest that the EC boss then in before this new group came into office, those letters were in relation to some of the BVDs and BVRs. And that led to the basis on which Parliament gave them money to replace in 2018, not the 2021. So don't get confused.
All right, but how about this? Because forgive me, because these are technical issues and you clearly appear to know them far better than I can appreciate. But you said in your statement, you charged the EC that they had failed to follow due process or lawful processes in the auction of the obsolete machines. The evidence I am looking at right now on this table shows the contrary.
Step by step. No. I'm now explaining the procurement issues. I'm explaining to that the documents that he just read in the studio are meaningless because you have to follow the timeline. And you have to understand the way the portfolio of the EC is constructed. It's not like 2011, they were buy 7,000. And then the next year, they replaced all of them. That's how it works.
Yeah, your suggestion was that somebody wanted to benefit from procurement because this is how things are done in this country. And we see documentation that shows that they got expert advice to dispose of the equipment and that they were obsolete. You had also said that refurbishment would be less expensive. The documentation shows that new BVRs will rather be less expensive.
No, I'm explaining to you that everything he read to you is meaningless because of distance so fast. And that's what I'm explaining. He read to you documents from January 2018 and May 2018. Written by the previous EC, written to the previous EC by vendors of the equipment, suggesting that the equipment were end of life cycle. I'm trying to explain to you that that is not for every single device that was there because the EC had bought some just the year before. And I showed you documents that showed here. In 2018, about 500 devices. So in 2016, they bought 500 devices. So if the EC, the vendor is writing to you that some of them are end of life cycle, that cannot apply to those devices. So essentially, they buy them at different periods. You understand the point? The second point is that, so if some of them are obsolete, you replace them. And the EC got the money from Parliament to replace them before you guys came in. these new officers came into office.
Okay.
That is the point. So that explains the letters. Okay. Now, having explained the letters, we go to the Auditor General.
Right. We have very limited time. We have very limited time. So
Let
if you can
end on the procurement point on whether or not the BVDs are obsolete. Because everything we are going to say anchors on whether or not the devices are obsolete. So here is evidence that comes from the Auditor General that show you the days in which payments were made. So supply of biometric registration kit. This was in 2016, February 2016. How much did we spend on them? $4.3 million. You are telling me that BVR kits bought in 2016 in February at $4.3 million in 2018 becomes obsolete? That cannot be the case. There are several of them here, preparation, etc. The final payment, 19th May 2016. Final payment of biometric voter registration kits components, $2.1 million. In 2016, we spent $2.something million, $4.7 million to buy laptops. And in 2018, all of them become obsolete. What you are claiming? Secondly, we also have records from the exchanges between the EC and the Parliamentary Committee, where they convinced them to give them money to buy 5,000 new BVR kits, in addition to the 7,500 that they refurbished in 2016 and 5,000 new BVDs. So when we read those documents, it's clear that after 2018, they were actually trying to convince Parliament to release money to buy new devices, and these monies were released based on that they bought new devices in 2018. As for the record, so the three arguments you can make is that somehow all these submissions to the Ministry of Finance, Auditor General, and the rest are lies. If that is proven, we will retract.
Okay.
But unless that fact is proven, the documents are absolutely clear.
All right.
2014, 2015 alone, they purchased 40,000 BVDs. So that's essentially the problem.
Okay.
That cannot be in any way claimed.
All right.
To the issue and favor rates.
Okay, Brighter, I'm sorry, but we just have run out of time at this point. It is only fair to get a minute's response from Dr. Shribo.
With respect to the unit cost of elections, you should understand that Electoral Commission's budget is made up of administrative cost and operational cost. So if you are computing what affects the voter, you should use the operational cost. You don't use the total cost of the commission. Because for the administrative cost, every year to become whether it's the election or no election. So that's the first thing that you should understand. Okay. Again, Immani initially said that we spent 300 million for purchasing the BVR, the kits. Later they came to 150. Now what figure are they using? Because we don't know the figure they are using to compute the 12.70% that you're talking about. I don't know. See, the fact is,
okay.
The fact is that the issue, you bring the issue, then you initially, I think when I was coming here, my thinking was that we do not use the right procedures to dispose of. Now these are the evidence. Why don't you tackle this one too?
All right, but he's saying things that are implicit. He tells you to understand that. Yes, quickly, I can take just a minute from both of you.
Yes. I had wanted to know whether the EC has an invoice, and I think Immani asked that question, which shows that refurbishment will be higher than invoice from the company that is to refurbish. Do you have that? So if that were there, then we can come to the conclusion, yes, you've asked from the refurbishing company.
Why do we change the discussion to that the question of invoice?
No, but if you are saying that refurbishment will be higher.
No, the people have given you a letter to that effect.
Which people?
I've read that.
When you read, you were here.
We don't have time. I've read that.
No, but there should be an invoice to show that.
If you are challenging that, you must have a basis contrary to the
evidence. You must have an invoice to show that. It's an invoice that will show you.
So you don't.
But you see, all these things borders on procurement in the Procurement Act. Don't forget, your predecessors fell under this act. And so you must conduct yourself above board. And that for me is very key.
Until you can point out that they breach any procurement process, I think that doesn't come up. Yes.
Well, Samson, I think that it's a healthy conversation to be had about Electoral Commission, keep them on task. But let's not veer too far off in just trying to make vain allegations that we can prove. Consistently, I think that Immani has focused on EC, for good reason. If they are criticizing, the facts are there, we appreciate it, we all want to follow that. but let's not create
You have
impression.
depended on Immani heavily when you are in opposition.
And I'm saying that
for their research
I'm not discrediting them by any stretch, but I'm just saying that we should do so with a view to help them operate efficiently. But what I have seen and heard this morning, consistent with the letter they have issued and the allegations they have raised, he has not answered a single question of what they have raised before coming into the studio, which particularly to do with that they have auctioned some 10 BVDs, and then they have not used legal processes, and so therefore something untoward has been done. For me, that was concerning, and I wanted to understand.
He has the opportunity of a minute before we close, but before that, this show is brought to you by Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 years plus. My Way Insurance, dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. Syntex Tanks is strong, it's tough. Flamingo Paints, simply superior. DBS Industries Limited, roofing, Papa Fie. And my outfit is by Konati Clothing. They are located at Adenta Shopping Center, Adenta Down. You can call them 0244 6767 32 6767 32. Konati Clothing. What you wear counts. Bright, in this minute, what can you say as your concluding statement that captures the issues in a manner that Richard can appreciate, because he says he hasn't heard you respond to any of the issues raised?
Laptops cost the country almost $3,500 each. Keep that number in mind. And then BVD devices, that cost the country almost $350 each. What we are saying is that they were bought between 2016 and 2019, according to Parliamentary and Ministry of Finance records. End of story. The EC has decided that these devices, and there are over 70,000 BVDs that were there, over 7,000 laptops that we are talking about. They claim all of them are obsolete. They cost $3,500 each, the laptops. The devices cost over $350 each. They claim they are all obsolete, and they've sold them to people that nobody knows, claiming that these people were simply helping the EC clear space.
You can no longer say they sold them to people nobody knows.
Has he given you the people who won the auction?
Yes, he has said so. He has given the names here.
What is the name of the company?
Yes, Electoral recycling something.
They recycled it. They did not buy the devices. They recycled it. The EC, look at the EC statement very carefully.
But they did an auction in the Daily Graphic. They advertised it, and somebody obviously bought them.
No. The person that bought them was not the recycling plant. Know why? Because in the EC statement, they said when they learned that the device was a recycling plant, they sent the police to go and retrieve 10 of them. If they didn't, if they knew it was the recycling plant, why did they send the police?
I'm sorry, but this all time will allow us. This has been Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. Tomorrow, Sunday, please join me on the law at 2 p.m. as we ask the question why the court refused to compel the president to assent to the anti-LGBT bill. We'll go through the judgment of the court with you so you'll understand why the court refused to compel the president. My guest once again, having Dr. Theo Champon, you heard him earlier, Abraham Amaliba, who is Director of Conflict Resolution of the NDC. Richard Ahiagba is Director of Communications of the New Patriotic Party. Dr. Sribo Kweku is Director, Electoral Services at the Electoral Commission. Of course, you heard Bright Simmons of Immani, Africa. Have a good afternoon.